Mequon. On this Sunday, the Falcons wrap up the regular season in acrobatics and tumbling as they welcome in the Thunder at Trine University. Welcome to our coverage of acrobatics and tumbling on the Falcon Athletic Network. My name is Matt Menzel. For the Falcons, a couple of victories and 4 defeats on this 2023 campaign. They're back here competing at home for the first time since they fell against Augustana on the 19th of February. They're also back in action for the first time in 9 days since wrapping up a spring break trip to South Dakota where they fell against Augustana. Augustana with 266.765 for their team score. The Falcons at 243.030. Number of positives from that meet 9 days ago. And for the Falcons, they performed awfully well in the compulsory event. They had season highs in all 4 heats and a season high for a team score of 34.35. In acro, a season high in the Heat 2 6-element portion of that particular event at 8.65. In the second heat, synchronized in the pyramid, a season high at 9.35. But again, a loss against Augustana after the Falcons had beaten Adrian back on the 14th of March. Alumni Day here inside the John Book Fieldhouse as the Falcons celebrate this being their 9th season of acrobatics and tumbling. And again, for the Falcons, trying to improve on their 2-4 mark as they get ready for postseason competition, which includes the NCATA Division III National Championships. The Falcons, of course, the defending NCATA Division III National Champs after knocking off both Stevenson and Adrian a year ago in Michigan. Across the mat, the Trine University Thunder, a roster of 23, which includes 5 freshmen, 9 sophomores, 7 juniors, and a couple of seniors. They find themselves so far this season with a couple of wins and a couple of losses. They fell against the defending Division I champs in Baylor University. That's a Baylor program that's won 7 consecutive NCATA National Championships. They bounced back to beat Adrian for the first time all-time on the 24th of February. Beat the Falcons for the first time all-time. That was from Indiana back on March 11th before they lost their most recent competition back on March the 16th. They fell against Mary Hardin Baylor. Mary Hardin Baylor with 269.905 for a total score in that particular meet. And the Thunder at 247.945. Bring that team score, the overall meet total up, because that's a program record for this third-year program, the 247.945. A number of program records throughout the course of that meet, despite the loss against Mary Hardin Baylor 10 days ago. Falcons and the Thunder for the second time here in 2023. When we come back to the John Book Fieldhouse, we check in with the Falcons head coach, Sarah Koenig, back for her 7th season to get a summary of the way this season's gone to date. Stay tuned. It's Falcons Acrobatics and Tumbling on this Sunday via the Falcon Athletic Network. Our national anthem to honor America on this Sunday inside the John Book Fieldhouse, wrapping up the regular season for acrobatics and tumbling as the Falcons welcome in Trine University. The Falcons and the Thunder meeting for the second time this season. They met in Indiana earlier, and that was a victory for the Thunder, and that was back on the 11th of March. Alumni Day here at the John Book Fieldhouse. Honored to be joined by Alyssa Schnelly, an alum for the acrobatics and tumbling team, part of the team, the active roster from 2018 through 2020. Alyssa, your thoughts on the sport, and how would you go about maybe explaining what acrobatics and tumbling is all about?
I think the easiest way to explain it is that it's cheer and gymnastics on steroids. Other than that, it's really easiest to explain by watching it.
And we will see compulsory get things started. The first 4 heats, which will begin with the acro heat. And as far as the start value goes, 10 points across the board. So we'll see Trine and the Falcons competing. When you face a team like, whether it be Trine or whoever the opponent may be, did you find it beneficial to watch your opponent compete first and then try to, either surpass what they did or kind of, set the standard that way?
It can be beneficial and it can be, depending on the team and on the person. Some girls can't watch the other team. Some girls do.
You see the Acro heat of compulsory. That includes Andrea Wegener, one of the tops for the Thunder. She is back for her junior season among 7 juniors on this roster at 23. Last time the Thunder in competition against Mary Hardin Baylor 10 days ago had a program record in the Acro heat of 9.35. Out there's a base for the Thunder is Michaela Sutherland. And that balance, especially on the left side of your screen. That with Wegener, along with Mel Lowe. And so you see the Acro heat for Trine. 3 judges down there watching closely, and every little wobble, every little shake, that factors in, doesn't it?
Yep. Every step you take, every little imperfection.
And at this point now, both of these programs well seasoned for the Falcons. They're back in action. First time in 9 days, but when you look at their overall successes this season, they have 2 victories, 4 defeats. One of those wins was a forfeit win. Adrian unable to compete here back on the 12th of February. And for Trine, this is the 5th meet they have participated in. They find themselves with a record of a couple of victories and a couple of defeats. So Trine competed. Falcons about to take to the mat for the Acro heat. What is this time now all about? Obviously, the scores are being tabulated for Trine, but as a athlete for the Falcons, are you thinking much right now? Are you just going out there ready to go at it? Is there last-minute instructions being given at this moment?
A lot of last-minute encouragement is really what's happening. Trying to encourage your teammates who are about to go on just to do their best and try their best.
And for the Falcons across the board here in the compulsory event, a great deal of success at Augustana 9 days ago. They had a season-high 8.00 for the Acro heat overall. As a team, a season-high of 34.35. Falcons, a lot of experience. They bring back 13 of 21 from last year's team that won the first ever NCATA Division III National Championship. Peyton Tarmina out there. She sports jersey number 6 back for her junior season. One of the tops along with Alexis Feifel. Just trying to maintain that balance off that flip. Tarmina among 9 upperclassmen of the Falcons Acrobatics and Tumbling roster. Feifel in her sophomore season. With an upper body strength. Balances everything right there, trying to hold. Not bad.
That was beautiful.
See the balance. Again, that coming into play on that left side of your screen. Tarmina on the right side. You talk about encouragement, too, and I got to believe after a fall like that, just got to stay with it and obviously can't lose your focus, even though it's so easy to want to just say, oh, that, and lose all focus after a fall like that.
Yeah, especially when it's the first thing in the meet, it kind of can be discouraging, but you really have to compartmentalize and move on to the next thing because you have the whole rest of the meet left.
And you see right in your picture on the right side of your screen, Alexis Feifel and some of the base athletes just, again, working things through and just trying to correct maybe what went wrong during that sequence.
Yep.
And for the Falcons, besides trying to beat Trine here today, this is all preparation for the postseason because hereafter, nothing left here in the regular season but a chance to go out there and defend your NCATA Division III National Championship and perhaps for some nationals thereafter. So it's an opportunity to continue to grow and build, and that's the whole thought process for the Falcons here on this Sunday. We will get you the scores as they come in, but again, that will be tabulated after the compulsory event is all said and done. They go from the Acro heat now to the Pyramid heat, and again, both teams start off with a start value of 10. For Trine, when they were last in action against Mary Hardin Baylor, compiled a score 9.65, a solid score 9.65 out of 10. For the Falcons here in the Pyramid heat, they would compile a season best 9.70. So if you're Coach Koenig, you certainly feel confident here in this heat after what you were able to accomplish 9 days ago. Were you a big fan of compulsory?
I like compulsory. It's, as Coach Sarah explains it, it's comparing apples to apples as opposed to the rest of the meet is comparing apples to oranges.
So right now the pyramid heat. Abigail Travel B, sports jersey 17, left side of your screen. And following the flip, which included Lauren Alexander, number 9 for the Thunder on the right-hand side. Well executed by Trine. See anything there on that pyramid heat?
That was excellent. That was a beautiful pyramid.
And again, for the Thunder, coming off that solid showing 10 days ago, and when these teams competed against each other back on the 11th of March, look at the pyramid heat, and this is where Trine had an advantage, 9.85 to 9.30. They would go on and win the compulsory event, 29.65 to 29.50, and again, it really came down to the success in this pyramid heat. So we see the Falcons can build off what they were able to accomplish in South Dakota 9 days ago. Is there pressure? Okay, so you had the fall in the acro heat, and you know you're going to get knocked points in that heat for that fall. Is there pressure then to try to make that up in one of these other heats? Or do you not think that way?
Not really. Usually it's just heat by heat. Kind of at this point, they're like, okay, let's forget about the acro heat, move on to pyramid. Let's do the pyramid the best we can, just like we would any other meet, no matter what happened in the previous heats.
See some warm-up tosses from Trine. Their head coach in the background, Katie Horstman, named the head coach back in the summer of 2019, helped start this program.
Concordia, Wisconsin.
A Thunder program that's been around now 3 seasons. So the Falcons now with the pyramid heat with that start value of 10. And one of the big roles for Eliana Schmidt, number 20 on your screen. Counting, making sure everybody's in sync, timing, rhythm. Madison Arndt on the right-hand side with Amanda Owens on the left side to build the pyramid with Feifel and Tarmina. What do you think?
That was good.
As the Falcons try to build off that score 9.70 from 9 days ago against Augustana. How important is that landing with the catch? Does that have to be perfect? Are they watching that closely too?
It has to be perfect. No steps, no bobbles, perfect catches.
So I'm guessing the Falcons may be docked a little bit on that right side with the catch of Tarmina.
Yeah.
Able to hang on, but again, just trying to stay near perfect or as clean as can be. From the pyramid heat to the toss heat, how do you explain the toss heat in comparison to acro and pyramid?
Toss is probably one of the most similar things to cheerleading. I mean, they throw one of the girls up in the air, she flips and or twists, and then they catch her.
And for a lot of these athletes, obviously there's no such thing as acrobatics and tumbling at the prep level, so a lot of these athletes come from that cheerleading, gymnastics, dance background. Obviously you have some athletes that have other backgrounds as well, sports-wise, but typically cheer, dance, gymnastics are the main 3. How about for you? What was your background prior to acrobatics and tumbling?
I had a cheerleading background. I did cheerleading for 7 years.
Competitively?
Yes, competitive, and I did middle school cheer.
Okay.
So.
So this is the toss heat for Trine. And again with that toss, trying to be in sync there too. Timing trying to be just right and just about right there for the Thunder. They've looked good so far here in this compulsory event, have the Thunder in their first 3 heats. This is a program that's coming off a fine year last year in which they would go 3-6 after going 1-6 during their inaugural 2021 campaign. A lot of confidence this year after beating Adrian for the first time all time, beating the Falcons for the first time all time. The Falcons would have bounced back here on their home mat. They have not been here competing in front of their home base since February 19th. And again, before that, it was more of an inter-squad opportunity after Adrian was unable to compete back on the 12th of February. See Sarah Koenig back for her 7th season as the 3rd coach in the Acrobatics and Tumbling program history, and she competed at Oregon. As the Falcons get ready for the toss heat here in compulsory, and then we move on to acro pyramid as well before halftime. Then you have the toss and tumbling events before the finale with the team event, which is always a thrill and a lot of fun with most that are here for both sides taking part in the team event. What was your favorite event?
I liked toss event. I used to back the back full toss, and that was one of my favorite things.
Did it take, okay, you mentioned you come from a cheerleading background. Did it take a long time to get used to acrobatics and tumbling, what it's all about, or was it one of those where it was easy, as far as an athlete goes, to catch on?
Well, when you come from any cheerleading or gymnastics background, you're used to trying to catch on quickly with new teammates, new skills and things. So I guess in that aspect it was kind of easy, but also difficult because there's nothing like this sport.
Sure. Not at all, but it's a growing sport as you see both Tarmina and Feifel. Thought that was a nice bounce back for the Falcons, that toss heat. Did you think they were in sync?
Yes, yeah.
For the Falcons, a season high 9.85 at Augustana 9 days ago. And against Augustana, we mentioned overall, the team had their best score in the compulsory event. Any one of their first actual 5 meets that took place. They had some program records along the way, but that's more in the toss events. We'll talk about that as we go along. Tumbling has been at times a strength. Toss has been there as well. Some of the areas that Coach Koenig pointed out have been a strong suit for the Falcons coming in. Hoping that trend continues. As we get to the tumbling heat, compulsory, and for the Thunder 10 days ago, this is where they struggled. And looking to bounce back, they scored a 6.10 out of 10 after they had solid and either record-setting or program record-tying performances in the previous heats, a compulsory. Trine with a program record of 34.55. That was 10 days ago. So when you have a meet like that where you excel, how much tweaking do you do in practice then the next few days? Do you change a lot? If it worked in one meet, you kind of keep it as is?
Try and keep, if stuff's working, you try and keep it like it is. Especially in compulsory, everyone's start value is 10, so you try to keep it the same. When it gets to the other events and heats, if it was working well, maybe try and upgrade some things to increase your start value. But
so we'll see the tumbling heat, and we'll see what adjustments have been made by the Thunder from that of their last opportunity to compete. When they face the Falcons back on the 11th of March. When you look at the tumbling heat, that was a struggle for both sides. Low scores, Trine at a 4.40 and the Falcons a 3.80. That was also a meet that featured 18 minutes of injury time, and that certainly factored for both sides when it came to just timing and the rhythm throughout the course of that particular meet. And watching that landing, watching the balance. timing right there, and watching bottom screen on the left with Mel Lowe, the sophomore from Canada. You hear the team, you hear Coach Katie Horstman counting. Not bad at all.
No, not bad.
As they try to bounce back from what we saw from the Thunder when they were last in action against Mary Hardin Baylor. For the Falcons, mentioned a season best at 6.80, trying to improve that number here this time. I'm venturing to guess, based on some of the scores, the tumbling heat tends to be the tougher of the heats in the compulsory.
Yes. Tumbling is a area Concordia's team has always struggled with, especially with this. With compulsory tumbling, it's been one of the hardest because you have to have 8 girls on the floor to get max points. So you get points off just starting if you don't have 8 girls on the floor.
Okay. And the timing, again, is everything. You got to be in sync. And so you're watching the floats, make sure everybody's landing and flipping at the same time. And
every little step they take off. Yep.
You better believe, bottom of your screen, you can see the heads of the 3 judges. They're watching closely. So the Falcons going to continue their improvement in the tumbling heat here in compulsory before we move on to Akron. Again, we'll pass along the scores as those get tabulated. That's taking place as we speak. We'll get those to you in the not too distant future, but Falcons hoping for a stronger start. They faced Augustana during spring break 9 days ago. They were already down roughly 3.5 points by the time they moved on to Acro. And now, as an athlete, were you listening? Obviously, they announced the scores over the loudspeaker at various venues. Did you pay attention to that a lot, or did you guys not worry about that until all was pretty much said and done?
We're listening for the scores, but less for – it's more for just how did we do?
Sure.
How did the judges score us? Every judge at every meet is different. The judges in the Midwest tend to judge a little harder than maybe in the South. So it kind of is just looking to see how they scored us. And I mean, Concordia's team will be expecting a lower score in certain things, especially like the Acro event, because of the fall. So,
well, as mentioned, you look out there to see if there's 8 on the mat. Indeed, there is for the Falcons. A good start. See number 7, Jessie Alexander, part of this grouping. She's back for her senior season. Coming with a cheerleading background. Everybody able to stick that landing. Emily Ruka out there along with Eliana Schmitz. Ellen Marie Sanders in her sophomore year. Gymnastics and softball background. I think one of the disadvantages you have if you're the Falcons versus Trine is you're, tumbling, flipping away from your team. So you got to listen as they're counting versus Trine, who's, flipping toward their team. And they're right there with that noise and communicating.
Mm-hmm.
You see anything different there? All good?
Yep.
We'll see how the scores come out. That in the tumbling heat of the compulsory event. As we move on to Acro. And this is where you think this is more of a challenge, the Acro event?
Yeah. I mean, from here on out, it's more what can each team do as opposed to every team does the same thing. So
there's 3 different heats consisting of 5, 6, and 7 elements. So you have groups of anywhere between 2 and 4 athletes competing and trying to compete with acrobatic lifts and tosses, demonstrating strength, balance, technique from both the bases and tops in each heat, again with an opportunity up to a value of 10, but based on the degree of difficulty and there's a whole description of what they're going to do, each team's going to do, that's submitted well before this meet begins. And so the start values are assessed, and we can tell you that at least coming into this first heat, which will consist of 5 elements, the Falcons have a start value of 8.95 versus Trine at 10.2. 0-0, so an opportunity at least for Trine to right off the bat space down their degree of difficulty to take an advantage here in heat number 1. So right now, compulsory, the various heats being tabulated, and we'll pass those numbers along to you in the not-too-distant future. Talking about this Falcon team, a roster of 19 with 6 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 6 juniors, 3 seniors. Your sister part of the team, Morgan Schnelly, her junior season now. And tell us about trust. Obviously, you look at a sport like this, and that's so critical, just trusting your teammates because, heck, if you're a top, you're up in the air. I mean, you're trusting that your base is holding you together, and there's that trust factor. How do you guys go about, maybe when the season starts, before the season starts, how do you go about just building that trust?
There's a lot of team bonding, team exercises. We do a lot of basic things on the floor, just to get each other's trust, get to know each other. That's probably one of the hardest parts of this sport, is trusting new people that you just met to throw you up in the air and hope they catch you.
Well, as we get ready for heat number 1, we can tell you for the compulsory event in the acro heat, Trine was able to score an 8.60. The Falcons at 7.10. In the pyramid heat, both teams scoring a 9.40. In the toss heat, that's where the Falcons had the advantage. They scored a 9.20 versus an 8.60 for Trine. And then finally in the tumbling heat, the Falcons scoring a 6.70. They won that heat with Trine at 5.50. So for the compulsory event, the Falcons able to come through with a slight advantage at 32.40 versus 32.15. So the Falcons a brief advantage as we go into the acro event, heat number 1, 5 elements. See Wegener, the top here for the Thunder. Wegener, a junior from Indiana. That is heat number 1, the 5 elements for Trine. Was out there along with Sydney Junt and Michaela Sutherland, the 2 bases. And that was a start value of 10 for the Thunder, and the Falcons will come out with a start value of 8.95. You look at the various heats in acro, the second heats where the Falcons have had success more recently. But you see in the background on the scores table, the current team score, and the Falcons with the slight advantage after one event. Reading the scores, anything jump out to you about anything that took place in the compulsory?
Not really.
Falcons picking up pretty much where they left off when it came to the tumbling heat. Had the advantage there. And also the toss heat. Again, 9.20 versus 8.60. Otherwise, the one heat won by Trine was acro. Get things started, and I think that's where the fall came into play. Other than that was pretty much even as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a good start here for the Falcons, who try to beat Trine after losing in Indiana to the Thunder earlier this month. As these two programs do have a history against one another. And they have met 5 previous times. Falcons have won 4 of the previous 5, including both get-togethers here inside the John Book Fieldhouse, which included February 12th of last season.
Next in the start value of 8.95. Concordia.
So heat 1, 5 elements for the Falcons. We'll see Jaden Vale, one of the 6 freshmen out there. Alexis Feifel. Helping to, again, just time things out. You have Miranda Maciejewski, her sophomore year from Illinois, gymnastics background. Allie Kamprut, sports jersey 27. She's back after being in the toss and team events last season, also with that gymnastics background. So Alexis Feifel, she last year competed in compulsory, acro, pyramid toss, tumbling, and team. Coming with that gymnastics background, state and regional champ in the state of Michigan. So as things start to build, here is heat number 2. 6 elements now, and the Thunder start with a start value of 9.25. So we'll see what they're able to accomplish here after against Mary Hardin Baylor. Again, that's one of the meets where, yeah, they lost, but for the Thunder, they made a lot of great strides from where they were at the beginning of the season. They, in this particular heat, compiled a score of 7.80, and again, they had a start value of 9.25, so looking to improve and perhaps getting the 8s here in this particular heat. You never got the opportunity to face Trine, at least when you were on the active roster, but I'm guessing Adrian was your big rival back when you competed?
Yep, Adrian was our big rival. I think Trine more so now. They've really improved over the last 3 years. You would have, honestly, watching them today, you would never guess that this is their 3rd year.
No, because, I mean, you make a great point. You look at some of the team scores, even just in the history against the Falcons, and they had a tough time getting to the 200s in that first year, and even going back to last year, yeah, the Falcons won both, but started to see it was a little more competitive, and now this year, they get that first win over the Falcons, and looking to do so again here inside the John Book Fieldhouse, where they have not won yet in 2 previous tries. You just never know. I guess that's the big question mark every year with acrobatics and tumbling. Again, still being I don't want to say it's a new sport, but it certainly is relatively newer. And for some programs, it is new. But you don't know because of those backgrounds just how it may all come together.
Yep.
So heat number 2, 6 elements. A start value of 9.25 for the Thunder. Yeah, Mel Lowe to your left, sports jersey number 10. Lauren Alexander on the recovery on that right side. Out there is Maggie Armentrout, a sophomore from Kansas, sports jersey 32. Well, again, just talk about the upper body strength there, able to hold that balance. Great stuff there from the Thunder. I can't even imagine what that may have looked like day 1 versus now. Just, again, tossing the top from one base to the other, and that strength, that balance, the focus. Does it get any easier with practice?
Yeah, it gets easier. The more practice and the more trust you have with each other, things get easier.
Take us through your career, okay, from day 1 versus, the last time you were out there competing. How did you feel you improved, and maybe where did you improve when you were in this sport?
Well, coming in my freshman year, I came from a cheer background, so, I mean, this is a very different sport from cheer.
Sure.
I'm a base and a back, so it's a little easier for me to trust because my feet don't leave the ground. As opposed to some of the tops, it's a lot easier it's harder for them to trust because they're the ones getting thrown around.
But is there pressure as a base knowing that you have that responsibility?
Yes. You really have to work to earn your tops' trust. They're trusting you with their life. So.
And I'm guessing if there's one fall, it's hard to regain that trust for at least a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to almost because, again, it's in many cases, a quick turnaround.
And especially with Concordia always having a smaller team, you don't really have room to lose trust in each other.
There's a roster of 19 coming in.
And number 29, Morgan Schnelly.
Typically each team, roster of roughly 28 for their game day roster. That tends to be the norm. You have Feifel and Tarmina. So Jesse Alexander, one of the bases. Right there, Feifel on your left-hand side. Ellen Marie Sanders trying to help her maintain her balance. Amanda Owens counting. She's a junior base out of Stevens Point, Wisconsin. In high school, was a 2020 national champion for hip-hop solo. Was a competitive cheerleader, ballet, flag football, involved in hip-hop. So watching that left side a little bit, I thought the Falcons' nice job of recovering. Things could have gone awry, and you saw Feifel at one point lose her balance, got helped by Ellen Marie Sanders, but able to get right back into the routine and really never skipped the beat thereafter.
Yep.
That was a start value of 10. And heat number 2, 6 elements for the Falcons. During this downtime, how do you go about, we're watching the team right now, and a lot of smiles there, just doing what they can to stay loose. Is it easier to stay loose? Are you so locked in, focused that? Do you like this downtime? Do you not like this downtime?
It's nice when the downtime's a little shorter. Sometimes they take a while to judge things, so having long periods of time in between each heat can definitely be nerve-wracking. And some girls on the team definitely cannot, need a shorter time. More time to think about it sometimes makes it worse.
Well, how does this compare? So in practice, do you guys try to emulate some of these meets sometimes? Do you maybe drag a little bit between events, or not so much?
Not so much. Usually in the weeks leading up to a meet, we'll run through practice meets where we'll do each thing, warm up each heat, and then mock compete each heat.
Sure.
Kind of to practice having time between each heat, and to practice competing, being the only one on the mat.
Now for the Falcons, they did, speaking of practice, take some time off leading into these 9 days in preparation for this meet here against Trine after a very busy spring break that would include matchups against Mary Hardin Baylor and Adrian from Adrian, Michigan. And then that trip to South Dakota that took place back on March the 17th. So on to heat number 3, 7 elements, a start value of 10. That's Mel Lowe, a sophomore tap for the Thunder. A lot of experience, too, on this Thunder roster. They bring back 18 of 23 from last year. Helping on the landing, you had Madison Looper, a sophomore from Pendleton, Indiana. Boy, you talk about that trust, too. Helping with the assist. Nice job there with Mel Lowe and the Thunder in heat number 3, 7 elements of Acro. Falcons have a start value of 9.80. We talk about the trust as a base. When you feel things are kind of, slipping a little bit, or someone's about to lose their balance, how do you go about trying to recover and maybe help alleviate what could be a bigger issue?
The best thing to do as a base is to stay as still as possible. The less they can correct themselves. Usually the mids and the tops can correct themselves, and it helps with the less you move, the less moving parts there are. So
we saw a nice recovery there for Trine, and just, again, helping Lowe maintain her balance, and maybe a little bit of a hiccup, maybe, but nothing that I think that ultimately will cost them a great deal when you look at the scoring, when the scoring does in fact get tabulated. We'll see what the Falcons can do here. This is where they struggled a little bit 9 days ago, a score of 6.45. And when you look at their season numbers, at least here in this third heat, that 6.45 by far was a season low. Their high is 9.00, which actually came at Trine. That was back, as mentioned, on the 11th of March.
Next to the start value of 9.8, Concordia, Wisconsin. Number 2, Emily Ruka.
So heat number 3, 7 elements. That will include Emily Ruka. Ruka, the freshman top out of Racine, Wisconsin. And Amanda Owens, the base. And Ellen Marie Sanders counting. Also out there is Amy Ebert for the Falcons. Back for her 4th season with Acrobatics and Tumbling. So Ebert with Ellen Marie Sanders. And you see the excitement there for the Falcons. Heat number 3, 7 elements, and a lot went right.
Yep. That was a beautiful, one of the best I've seen them do.
Be anxious to see the score again for the Falcons. Their season best coming against Trine at 9.00. So right now the score is being tabulated. The Falcons at least through one event at 32.400 to Trine 32.150. We'll move on to Pyramid here as those scores get tabulated, and we'll see another 3 heats, 3 individual heats, building pyramids of 3 layers. Teams combine an entry structure and dismount to create a pyramid, and we'll see each heat a different requirement. We have the inversion, the inverted body position for the top, synchronized and open, and each heat again could score up to 10. Potential total combined score in this event of up to 30 based on the start value. And here in the pyramid, at least we'll see to start things off in heat number 1, the inversion. Start value at 9.90 for Trine, 9.70 for the Falcons. Falcons had success in the synchronized heat against Augustana 9 days ago, and the Thunder look at their pyramid success. A couple of program records in Heat 1 and 3. An overall program record of 28.70 against Mary Hardin Baylor. You like the pyramid event?
I like the pyramid event, yeah. There's a lot more components to it that make it a lot more difficult. So it's really cool to see what each team can do.
Which was your favorite heat? Did it matter?
I liked everything.
And again, we'll see inversion right away, followed by synchronized.
That one's probably the hardest, the inversion. You have to hold somebody upside down while standing on top of somebody else.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Take a look at the scores from Acro in heat number 1, the 5 elements. Trine scored a 9.10. Falcons just 5.45. In heat number 2, the 6 elements, the Falcons able to score an 8.10, 7.75 for the Thunder. And then in heat number 3, the Falcons, they dropped that third heat, 8.90 to 8.80. So here we are through now 2 events. And as of right now, the Thunder, they have the lead. That's because they won the Acro event, 25.750 to 22.350. Updated overall totals through 2 events, 57.90 for Trine, 54.75 for the Falcons. So some work to be done now here in the pyramid event. So heat 1 inversion. The start value here was at 9.90 for the Thunder. Falcons will come out with a start value of 9.70. They were at 9.70 at Augustana and scored a 9.10. Has this typically been a stronger event for the Falcons?
Yes, yeah. My freshman year, actually, we went to nationals for all 3 pyramids. But yeah, pyramid has always been a strong suit for Concordia's team.
So they can make up a little bit of the difference after a couple of events. Again, right now, when we get the wide-out shot, you'll see the score on the scorer's table. Right now, the Falcons trail 57.900 to 54.750 after, again, they dropped the Acro event by roughly, give or take, 3 points, a little over 3 points after it was somewhat neck and neck through the compulsory event. Like you said, I think the Falcons believe this is an area where they can find success here in the pyramid event. These teams competed back on March 11th. This is where the Falcons, they actually fell 28.25, 27.20, but a little bit of success in heat number 3, the open heat of this event. Alexis Feifel. Now, is she trying to hold up top for a little bit longer?
Yes. So in any skill in acro, they're supposed to hold it for at least 3 seconds.
Okay. So the Falcons, again, came in with a start value there of 9.70, and now we go to the synchronized heats. What can fans expect to see in this heat? What's this heat all about?
Really just trying to make sure everything is exactly the same with each pyramid. This one can be really hard because you can't really see each other, and there's so many different components to it.
You see right now the Falcons getting some practice in. With Alexis Feifel, top of your screen, bottom of your screen, it's Emily Ruka. Those are a couple of the younger athletes on this Falcon roster. Sophomore, freshman. Falcons have 3 seniors. We talked about Jesse Alexander already and the experience, along with Amy Ebert. Then you have Annalisa Abella, who had joined last year and competed in the team event. Part of the field hockey team as well, was a first team all-conference selection in field hockey last couple of years. So here in heat number 2, synchronized, a start value of 9.70 for Trine. Back on March 11th, the Thunder, a 9.20 in this heat. So heat number 2 for the Thunder. Falcons will come out with a start value also of 9.70. Again, look at the season breakdown, and their top in this second heat came against Augustana, season best of 9.35, and got off to a great start, scored a 9.15 in this second heat. First opportunity against Augustana, then it dropped down to 8.5, then 8.8, then back up to 9.35. So they've been in that neighborhood of anywhere between, again, 8.5 and 9.3. They come out with that start value of 9.70. obviously as an athlete, you hope to get a perfect score, 9.70. But what realistically are you kind of aiming for, knowing that, to be perfect, okay, that realistically it can't happen, but there's going to be some mistakes here and there. So what do you kind of shoot for? Do you guys have a number in mind when you go out there and compete?
Not really. It's really just try your best, do the best you can. Whatever score they give you, that's what they give you.
Sure.
We're more or less looking for, did you do your best?
And I'm guessing, too, you're looking for improvement from one meet to the next.
Yep.
So the Falcons coming out here in heat number 2, synchronized. Halftime will occur after this pyramid event. And then toss, tumbling, and team in the second half. Feifel and Ruka. Ruka on the, so you face your screen right side. Tarmina counting. You feel they were in sync?
Yeah.
And we'll see what the judges say when the scores are tabulated. But now it's heat number 3, and it's open, isn't it? So it's kind of a free-for-all.
Yep. Whatever the coach wants to put out there.
And when you look at the start value here in this third heat of the pyramid, the start value for the Thunder is 10, and for the Falcons also at 10. So we'll see how close they can get to that perfect score. Falcons have a season high 9.90 in heat number 3. They've done that twice against Augustana at Adrian during that spring break trip to Michigan back on the 14th of March. You look at the second half, and again, toss will be event number 4. That consists of 3 heats. Tumbling is where it gets, again, real interesting, and you look at the various passes there, and we'll see 6 of those, and then you have the team event, which will potentially be the difference maker when all is said and done. I know you guys spend a lot of time on that team event, don't you?
Yeah. Yep. That's probably one of the hardest parts, especially coming from like a background that's not competitive cheer. That can be very difficult with all those different moving parts.
Heat 3 open for Trine. Wegner, the top for Trine. You can tell by the Thunder reaction they were pleased with that performance. The Falcons also have that start value of 10.00. I should mention that Trine is coming off a program record Heat 3 pyramid against Mary Hardin-Baylor at 9.80, so trying to emulate, if not surpass, that total. That's about as perfect as it gets outside of being perfect. So some success for the Thunder as well in the pyramid event. That's got to be frustrating, though. You get a 9.80 program record. Shouldn't be good enough to win the heat, and Mary Hardin-Baylor scores 9.95.
Yep.
That's throw everything out there, and Mary Hardin-Baylor able to take that heat. And that was a matchup that would see Mary Hardin-Baylor come away with about a near 20, almost a 22-point win when all was said and done. So Jesse Alexander and now Peyton Tarmina open heat. As you mentioned, trying to hold for at least 3 seconds. And no problem there for Peyton Taormina. She competed in gymnastics for 16 years. Compulsory, acro, pyramid, toss, tumbling, and team. She's been part of it all. They're now 3 seasons with this program. She was a NCATA Freshman of the Week honorable mention at one point in her freshman season. That wraps up the pyramid event with the 3 heats. Wait for the scores to come in, and then we'll get ready to take a break here after as halftime upon us. A 15-minute halftime. And that clock will start as the scores come in. Again, through the first couple of events, the Falcons down 57.90 to 54.750 after an acro event that would see Trine take the lead by outscoring the Falcons by nearly 3 full points over the course of those 3 heats combined. Really anxious to see some of the scores here in this pyramid, especially when you look at the inversion. Although, you go back to the open, and that's where, again, this Trine team has had success, so can they build off it? Well, halftime coming up, and then on to the second half with toss, tumbling, and team. Do you do anything differently during those 15 minutes at halftime?
Well, during the first, before the meet starts, we're really trying to focus on warming up the first half of the meet.
Sure.
So then during these 15 minutes, you're really trying to warm up toss, tumbling, and then what you can for a team event.
Of the events that are remaining, which are you most looking forward to?
I like toss the best. Toss has always been my favorite, and Concordia has really improved their tosses. They have some really difficult tosses now. And
tumbling is an area that Coach Koenig would love to see improve or take that next step. So we'll see if they're able to do that. And looking at some of these start values coming in, certainly anywhere between about 7 and 8.50, even a 9.1 for the open, come in the direction of the Falcons when we get to that point. Take a look at pyramid. And in heat number 1 inversion, Trine able to prevail 9.50 to 9.10. In heat number 2 synchronized, another victory there for Trine at 9.10 to 8.30. And the open heat, after the Falcons had a great deal of success at 9.80 to 9.40. Trine takes the pyramid event. A total score of 28.000 to the Falcons, 27.200. Overall, at this point, going into the second half, Trine has 85.900 to the Falcons, 81.950. So roughly a 4-point advantage. That for Trine going into the second half of this meet. But just looking at some of the totals from the pyramid, and for the Falcons, again, having success in the open, 9.80, just missed their season best. The pyramid in the first heat at 9.10. Good for a third-place tie here this season. And as far as Trine goes, Trine trying to build off that program record, 9.80. They had a 9.40 in heat number 3. So we are halfway through on this Sunday. Acrobatics and tumbling, and the Falcons, a little bit of work to do. They're down 85.90 to 81.950. Second half is coming up. We'll take a quick break. It's Falcons, Acrobatics, and tumbling on the Falcon Athletic Network. Halftime inside the John Book Fieldhouse, Acrobatics and tumbling, and the Falcons right now trying to play comeback after 3 events. They trail the Trine Thunder 85.900 to 81.950. In the compulsory event, the Falcons finding success 32.40 to 32.15, but Trine able to prevail in both acro and pyramid. In acro, the Thunder with a team score of 25.75, Falcons at 22.35. And then in the just completed pyramid event, 28.00 to the Falcons, 27.20. As far as the highlights go for Trine, 9.1 plus in all three heats in the pyramid. Scored a 9.10 in the first heat, 5 elements in acro, and also a 9.40 in the pyramid heat, a compulsory for the Falcons in the 9s in a couple of the heats in compulsory, and then an 8.80 in heat number 3, 7 elements of acro, 9.80 in heat number 3 open for the pyramid. Toss, tumbling, and the team event still to come as the Falcons try to play comeback. Again, they come in with 2 victories, 4 defeats, looking to beat Trine after losing at Trine earlier in the month. For the Thunder, they're trying to get above 500. They come in at 2 victories and a couple of defeats before they wrap up their regular season coming up on April 1st against both Adrian and Augustana, hosted by the Thunder. Second half is coming up. You're tuning in to continuing coverage of Falcons, Acrobatics, and Tumbling on the Falcon Athletic Network. Halftime is winding down here inside the John Book Fieldhouse. A Sunday of acrobatics and tumbling. Falcons right now trail Trine after one half. And again, the team score at this juncture sees Trine with 85.900. Falcons 81.950. Toss is coming up, followed by tumbling and the team event to wrap up the Falcons' regular season schedule. And after this, we look at the road ahead, the NCATA Division III Championships taking place April 13th through the 15th from Belton, Texas. And then if the Falcons qualify, the NCATA National Championships take place from West Liberty in West Virginia, April 27th through the 29th. So here in the toss event aerial event with a group of bases tossing one top in the air. The top completes a flipping and or twisting skill forward or backward. 2 out of the 3 heats are solo tosses with 1 synchronized heat. Each heat, again, can score up to 10 with a total combined score in this event of up to 30. So the 450 Salto heat number 1 here in the toss. The start value 8.80 for Trine. That's the way things get started. Heat number 1 of the toss. Falcons, they have a start value of 9.90. And you look at the success the Falcons have had in the toss this season. They had a program record here in Heat 1, a 9.60 accomplished at Adrian on March the 14th. And as you were mentioning before we went to break at halftime, this is where the Falcons have had success, the toss traditionally, and they hope to have more of that success here today.
Yep.
They have start values all of 9.4 or better. What is this 4.50 Salto all about?
I'm pretty sure it's a gymnastics term. It's not a cheer term, so
Sure.
I'm not 100%. But it has to go. I know the top has to flip backwards.
Okay.
So there's no front tossing. It all has to be backwards.
And as mentioned, the Falcons having, well, we look at the toss as a whole, this whole event, 2 heats. They've had program records already in that second heat, which is synchronized, a 9.05 accomplished at Trine on March 11th. And talking about the successes so far this season here in the toss, their season high for the total in the event is 27.60. That was accomplished at Adrian. The Falcons come back out. First time to start this second half. And Peyton Tarmina. With that gymnastics background. That looked good.
Yep.
Real good, and the Falcons had that start value of 9.90. Anxious to see if they can challenge that program record of 9.6. This seems like, at least here in the toss, and you see it with some of the athletes watching their facial reaction, their body language, there was a different confidence, a different mindset or confidence about themselves when competing here in these heats.
Yes. Toss is like one of the most consistent because I know Peyton has been working on that toss for a while. So her confidence with it has grown, and having her have consistent bases and a consistent toss group, it definitely helps her.
Absolutely, and now you get heat number 2 synchronized. Mentioned here in the toss event, 2 out of the 3 heats are solo tosses. Then you have the 1 synchronized heat, which is where we're at now here in this toss event. And Trine will come in with a start value of 8.80. Well, they competed back on March 11th. Look at the toss, and the Falcons, this is the one event throughout the course of the meet where they won. Otherwise, Trine edged out the Falcons in every event on that day. Falcons 27.20 to Trine's 24.45. Here in the second heat, Trine had to score 8.0. So looking to be in sync. About as close as it gets. Among the 2, you had Wegener out there for the Thunder. Their head coach, Katie Horseman, looking out. She competed at Baylor University, and opportunity for Trine to start the season against Baylor, the champions of Division I NCATA competition. In fact, 7 consecutive NCATA national championships. What was that like? Can we talk about coaches with experiences and a high level of experiences? What was it like competing for a coach like Sarah Koenig, who competed at Oregon, and that's another tradition-filled program when it comes to acrobatics and tumbling?
With that, coming from like a Division I really experienced school, she brings a lot of experience. She really knows what she's doing. She knows just how to upgrade things and when to leave things where they should be, depending on the team's competence.
Sure. And again, she brings that experience and consistency, continuity, stability to this Falcon program, having now been around, this being her 7th season. Program that was established, at least here on the Concordia campus, back in 2015. Again, we'll see the 2 tops for the Falcons being Peyton Tarmina and Alexis Feifel. Kate Katula, a freshman, counting for the Falcons. And again, just different confidence, a swagger about the Falcons here in the toss event. Yeah, that start value at 9.40. So now to heat number 3 open. Start value for Trine of 9.25. Did you enjoy toss?
Yeah.
And how about with open? How creative are you guys able to get?
It really depends on the top skills. During my time, we didn't have super creative.
Okay.
Just because we didn't really have the skill. But now they can be super creative. You can see them warming up their open toss right now.
They had a season best of 9.05 at Adrian to the Falcons here in the open toss. That was back on the, again, 14th of this month. So off the open there with Olivia Hardup, a freshman from Huntington, Indiana. Among 5 freshmen for Coach Horstman. I'm very anxious to see the Falcons now here. Again, when you look at the start values, the degree of difficulty, some higher numbers coming into this event. 9.60 here for the Open. When you know that this is a strength of yours as a team, and I know I keep throwing out the word pressure, talking about the mindset. When you look at an event like this, is there pressure knowing that perhaps this whole meet comes down to how well you perform in this event? Or do you, again, is it one of those where you don't think like that?
It's really, we're not really thinking of the whole meet, at least most of us aren't.
Break it down in parts?
Yeah. It's more just compete the heat, do the best you can, and move on to the next thing. It definitely is nice starting off like right after intermission, right after the halftime, having an event that we do so well with that stays super consistent. So it definitely helps with confidence going into the second half of the meet.
And I would think, too, just based on, again, successes for the Falcons here in the toss event, that you look at this and you circle this event and go, this is where we can start to sway momentum and take maybe control of this meet. And we'll see if the Falcons can do that. Emily Ruka. With that catch, the sure thing, no real hesitation, no juggle whatsoever. And so the Falcons performing well in the toss event, which will take us now to an area that they'd love to see improve. And looking at some of the numbers here this season, you have Tumbling, set the bar high. Their very first actual meet, which took place against Augustana here on February the 19th, they had their best score in this event of 45.900, including a program record of 8.150 in trio. Tumbling, synchronized and individual tumbling passes. Athletes have the ability to compete in one synchronized pass and in one solo passes. Again, feature a variety of salto and twisting elements and are valued for the difficulty of and the connection of those skills. So you have 3 synchronized and 3 individual heats that construct the tumbling event with 10 points each for a maximum of possibly 60 points in this event. And we'll start with the duo pass. Look at some of the start values where the Falcons feel like they have a chance to score some points. Both of these teams do is in the open pass. So the duo pass, trio pass, quad pass, aerial pass, 6-element pass, open pass, all part of the tumbling event. Is there one of these passes that you enjoy watching?
I like the individual passes. All 3 of them are very interesting. You really get to see what each individual athlete can do when they're doing more individual passes as opposed to the synchronized ones.
And again, that synchronized too is just so difficult because it's, again, trying to be in sync with not necessarily being able to see your teammate.
Yeah.
Making sure all the timing is down. As scores have come in for the toss in heat number 1, the Falcons at 9.250, the Trine at 8.400. Falcons taking the second heat, 8.600 to 7.350. And in heat number 3, the Falcons also victorious, 8.900 to 7.800. Falcons, they take the event, the toss event, 26.750 to 23.550. And as we speak, going into the final 2 events of the day, not even a full point separates these 2 teams. Trine still leads 109.450 to the Falcons, 108.700. So it's real close going into the final couple of events here on this Sunday, beginning now with tumbling. Well, these teams competed earlier in the month. In Tumbling, this is where Trine snuck out a 45.950 to the Falcons, 44.675. So that being the duo pass, that start value is 7.55. So Anna Trum among the pair out there. Trum, a junior out of Portage, Michigan. For the Falcons, the start value also a 7.55. Their season best, 6.850, which came in the first two meets against Augustana and against Trine roughly 3 weeks or so ago. So right now the Falcons, a slight deficit after they had the lead through the compulsory event, fell behind after the acro event, stayed behind after the pyramid event, have closed the gap after nearly a 3-point win in the toss event. They have closed the gap, again, with a couple of events remaining. One of the closer meets so far between the Falcons and the Thunder. See if it stays that way.
Next in start value of 7.55 from Concordia, Wisconsin. Number 7, Jesse.
So for the Falcons, you have Jesse Alexander among the pair out there. Ellen Marie Sanders as well. Pretty close to being in sync.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're watching the flips, but also watching the feet, too. And I figure that comes into play, too, does it not, as far as the landing and just how, I guess, up, standing straight and how balanced you look?
Yeah. Depending on how you land on your own feet, it can really depend. Because if you take a step out of that when you're not supposed to, they'll take off for that as well. So really looking for good landings.
Here's the trio pass, a start value of 7.50. Breaking down the tumbling event when these teams met in Indiana earlier in the month, where Trine had success. That came in both the 6-element pass and the open pass. That's where they were able to, again, create a little bit of separation to ultimately take the event. So right now the score is being tabulated, everything checks out, and away we go here with the trio pass. At 7.50, the start value for the Thunder. Wegener out there, or expected to be out there among the trio for Trine. So Wegener, Looper, Travel B, the three with that trio pass. That's one of the things I love about this sport. You saw it right there, is just the positivity. Obviously, yes, there are going to be stumbles, fumbles. There's going to be, athletes, things go awry. But the positivity, the energy level, it always seems to be sky high, doesn't it?
Yep. That's one of my favorite parts of this sport, is how encouraging everyone is of each other, even of other teams.
Yeah. I was going to say, that you bring up a great point, because that's the thing that struck me the first time I saw acrobatics and tumbling many years ago is yes, you're competing, like in this case, against Trine, but in the whole scheme of things, you're really trying to encourage each other and trying to grow the sport. So, yes, You're competing on the scoreboard, but in reality, you just want to, you applaud a good effort when you see a good effort.
Yep, you really just want to see everyone succeed in this sport. Whether they're on your team or not, you want everyone to succeed and do their best.
Again, a sport that continues to grow, more and more schools adding as opposed to deleting. And seeing even more schools pop up for the immediate future here in the Midwest, which is always good news, especially for Coach Koenig and even for Trine, for that matter, as far as, traveling goes and staying relatively close to home. But for the Falcons, 8.50 here in the trio pass. Peyton Tarmina is out there with Alexis Feifel and Ainsley Taylor. Being that Tarmina was a little bit further down the mat, does that come into play at all? Or do you have to be parallel?
No, it's really just the tumbling pass itself being in sync. Some girls tumble longer, take more of the mat to run. And
so if they land at the same time, great. And even if you go, a little bit further, so be it. But again, that in sync landing is all comes down to.
Yep, it's the timing and everything, yeah. It doesn't matter exactly where as long as it's at the same time.
Brings up the quad pass. This is where Trine has a start value of 8.50. They will come out with Lauren Alexander, Mello, Courtney Welsh, and Sydney Junt will be competing here for the Thunder. Against Mary Hardin Baylor 10 days ago. Trine here in the quad. They came in with a start value 8.50, but instead they finished with a score of 7.75, which was second best in program history. And for the Thunder, they had a program record in tumbling of 46.475, so some pretty good numbers. They had a couple of program records, a couple of second best in program record scores in this tumbling event. See a couple of the tumblers starting a little bit back, and again watching the feet, making sure they land in sync. So the Falcons here in the quad pass, start value is 7.00. Emily Ruka, she'll be out there along with Kate Katula. Yeah, Madison Arndt competing here. She has a gymnastics background at a Waukesha West High School in this her sophomore year. And then Miranda Machieski also among the quad here in the quad pass. And then after this, you have three more passes and more individual action here in the tumbling event. This being event number 5 of 6. Here in this regular season finale meet for the Falcons. Mentioned Thunder still have an opportunity to compete against Adrian and against Augustana from Indiana coming up on April 1st.
7.0 from Concordia, Wisconsin. Number 2, Emily Ruka. Number 18, Kate Colta. Number 33, Madison Arndt. And number 40, Miranda Machewski.
Pretty close there timing-wise. Go imagine being a judge, having to watch and see, and again every half second, every little bit of a stumble, that all factors in, and just making sure that your mind's not playing tricks with your eyes. As we move on to the aerial pass, we will see Anna Trum competing for the Thunder. So the spotlight on Trum. I wonder what that feels like as an athlete, where you go from 1 minute you're competing with a teammate to now spotlight's on you. And I almost feel like that's a little bit easier because you get the control versus relying on a teammate being in the same timing as you are.
Yeah. I was not a tumbler, so I'm not exactly sure what's going through their head, but I feel like it can be a bit of both.
Sure. That's valid, because again, there are some that maybe excel having, a teammate helping you out.
Yep. if you're from a gymnastics background, you're used to having the spotlight on you. If you come from a cheerleading background, that can be different, not having that, because you're used to having so many other people on the mat with you.
See Anna Trum. How much tumbling, when you look at this event as a whole, comes down to the landing? I mean, is that we score most of your points outside of obviously the flips, the tumbles?
Yeah. Landing is a lot of it. You misstep once, you can end up on the floor, so it can really come down to how you land.
Pretty consistent aerial pass there for Tum. So Anna Trum. And now for the Falcons, we will see Jessie Alexander. Told you earlier, she's one of the 3 seniors of the Falcons we'll say so long to when all is said and done, and she's been a big part of the Falcons' success, especially with the last now couple of years, as her role has increased on this team. So Jessie Alexander. And a couple of high fives from her coach, Sarah Koenig. That aerial pass had a start value 8.05. The 6-element pass, a start value for Trine of 8.45. We'll see Sydney Junt competing here for the Thunder. Some of these athletes, yeah, certainly they're out there encouraging their teammates, but also in the back of their mind, we're not that far away from the team event, and it's looking like this meet's going to come down to that event. And it blows that team event, and if you haven't seen this before, just wait, you're in for a treat. All that goes into it, and the routines, the music, everything has been well thought out and planned, and it's been basically a whole year in planning, and it all comes down to now, if you're the Falcons, perhaps the final time you get to do it here in the regular season. So it's certainly an emotional but an exciting opportunity coming up for the Falcons in the next event.
Yeah. Team event can be very difficult. There's so many different parts of it.
Up first, the start value is 8.45 from Trine, number 30, Sydney Junt.
So here is Sydney Junt, freshman from Rochester Hills, Michigan. Falcons have a start value also of 8.45. Ellen Marie Sanders, sophomore from Maryland. After this, we have the open pass before we move on to the aforementioned team event. Falcons high, their top score in the 6-element pass, 8.100 accomplished twice. Here against Augustana and also at Adrian just over a week ago. So Ellen Marie Sanders awaiting the thumbs up as again the judges tabulated in the last scoring there for Trine. And the landing there for the sophomore. So the final pass now here in Tumbling, the open pass. And Mel Lowe, the sophomore from Toronto, competing here for Trine. So you look at the backgrounds, a lot of these athletes, whether it be competitive cheerleading, some cases sideline cheerleading, ballet, dance. In some cases other sports. You have a couple of power lifters competing here, some former softball athletes on top of gymnasts. But so many skill sets involved here in acrobatics and tumbling, artistic, acrobatic, trampoline, power, tumbling. There's a lot that goes on, and there's so many moving parts. Sometimes it's kind of overwhelming. There's so much going on at one moment, and we'll see that in the team event.
Yeah, team event can be very overwhelming watching it and being in it.
Just so many different moving parts.
Yep.
And so many different skill sets will be on display. Saw a little bit of a slide of the foot there on landing. She was able to avoid completely wiping out. Again, we'll have to wait and see how that comes into play. Just the one foot. Slid a little bit as she went to stick the landing. Up for the Falcons is Peyton Tarmina, a junior out of Geneva, Illinois. .10 her start value, same as it was for Lowe here in the open pass. So again, the score is being entered for Trine as Tarmina waits for the thumbs up from the judges.
Next with a start value of 9.1 from Concordia, Wisconsin, number 6, Peyton Tarmina.
So Peyton Tarmina able to end the tumbling event as both teams now prepare for the finale of the team event, which is coming up. And again, the team event, teams performing synchronized, choreographed skills and a routine set to music. Each team competes up to 24 athletes. Routines are composed to showcase all skill sets that have been competed in the previous 5 events. The event with a maximum of 110 points. And we tell you, for Trine, they will have a total of 19 here at the team event. The Falcons will have a total of 18 competing in the team event. From your experiences with the team event, how much say do the athletes have throughout the course of the year in music, the choreograph, all that goes into the team event, or is that pretty much predetermined?
We can say suggestions. We can ask if we want certain music. Coach Sarah will have us listen to the music, and if there's certain things, with tumbling, you want faster-paced music.
Sure.
So during those sections, we do have input, so we get to say, like, hey, can we switch these songs? Can we switch these? With choreography-wise, there's 2 8 counts of a dance. So some teams, maybe bigger teams, will have a choreographer. Concordia doesn't. The team completely creates those 2 8 counts of a dance.
Do you have a time limit?
For team event as a whole?
Yeah, it's got to be done at a certain...
Yep. It's 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Okay.
2 minutes and 45 seconds.
2 minutes, 45 seconds.
Yes, 2 minutes, 45 seconds.
And again, as far as we know, as far as the start values go, again, up to 110. Trine will have a start value at 97.76. Falcons at 97.83. Awaiting the tumbling results, which should be at our fingertips any moment now, and here they are. And we can tell you that in the duo pass, Falcons won that pass 6.950 to 6.750. In the trio pass, this is where the Falcons scored big points, 8.00 to Trine 6.55. In the quad passes where Trine had success at 7.450 to the Falcons 6.100. In the aerial pass, also Trine victory at 8.400 to the Falcons 7.450. In the sixth element pass, was at 8.0 0.025.
Concordia 45.3.
That's a 7.975 for the Falcons. And the open pass, there was a little bit of stumble that maybe cost Trine at the end, the landing, and the Falcons sneak out the open pass, 8.825 to 8.800. So when you look at the tumbling event as a whole, Trine prevails 45.975 to 45.300. So going into this final event, right now Trine leads 155.425 to 154.000. So again, it is awfully close. 1.425 separates these two going into this final event on this Sunday.
Please welcome to the floor, Trine.
And we will see the Thunder coming out with a 7.76 start value. With 1 second to spare. Good timing there. The team event, all the skill sets on display. And for the Trine Thunder, their team event complete. Now they wait. They try to win here inside the John Book Field for the first time in the short history for the Thunder Acrobatics and Tumbling program. For the Falcons, a start value of 97.83, their season best, 85.99 against Augustana on the 19th of February. Man, so much going on there, right?
Yes. Yep. Very chaotic. Organized chaos.
Well, I was going to say, I don't even know how you guys remember, okay, now we go to this, to that, to this, to that, to that, to this. And then on top of it all, not that you can worry about it while you're in the moment, but that clock's ticking. So even if
Yes.
you're off you get off to a delayed start, or even, something gets messed up here and there, that could cost you, and they had 1 second to spare.
Yeah, you really try not to think about the time. Your music is the set amount of time that it needs to be, so you really try and focus on your skills and what you're doing and less about the clock.
I'm
and then-
factoring that comes into play in two different ways. It comes into play where if you get done way too early, there's still a minute left on the clock or 30 seconds still on the clock. That probably comes into play a little bit versus you have a couple of seconds left or you go over.
Yes. Yeah, if you go over, you'll get, again, deductions. If you're under, you're probably missing things in your team event that you needed points for. So
How much time is spent on the team event in practice?
a lot of time is spent on team event. A lot of the skills that you see in the rest of the meet are in the team event.
Okay.
So the consistency of that is helpful, but also trying to teach people who don't have like a competitive cheerleading background how team event works. It takes a lot of time to get used to it. So you really try and do a lot of run-throughs of team event.
Well, the Falcons coming in after the first 5 scored events. Trine 155.425, Falcons 154.000. That's the score as we speak, and so it comes down to this as the Falcons try to squeak one out here inside the John Book Fieldhouse. Been playing catch-up since the second event of the day, the Acro event. Gained some good ground in the toss event. Trine was able to, not by a ton, but able to come through with the tumbling event in hand. So we'll see how the team event plays out here for the Falcons. Again, Concordia will come out, and we will see a total of 18 on this Falcon roster competing in this final event. I also invite you to check out cuwfalcons.com a little bit later on for a complete recap of today's meet. And stay in the loop. As far as Falcons, acrobatics, and tumbling goes, to the road ahead. After this, the attention goes to the NCATA Division III Championships. Falcons, they have a banner up here inside the John Book Fieldhouse to show off last year's first ever NCATA Division III National Championship. Beat Stevenson, beat Adrian. That same meet, Trine, they took the third place meet by beating Stevenson from Adrian, Michigan. This year the event in Texas. And then if the Falcons can qualify, we'll be off to Nationals in West Virginia late April. The judges going through, and again, there's a whole checklist of did they show us this skill set, that skill set, on top of the actual producing and performing of those skills and the timing and the footing, everything being in sync, all comes into play here. See how close they can get to the start value at 97.76. Watching the Falcons a little bit here, and they're loose. They seem ready to go, just waiting that thumbs up to come from the judges that they're ready to go. If you're trying, you're starting to switch shoes, tape coming out and off. You got taped up this, that, wrists, knees. They're just waiting for Concordia's performance, and then they make their way back to Indiana, and they're hoping they're leaving here with a victory. Falcons hoping to put one in the win column. After dropping 4 of the last 5, they've scored wins against Adrian. One was a forfeited win. The other was an actual win against the Bulldogs. That was in Michigan back on the 14th of March. It's got to be a challenge, though, too. And you and I talked about it a little bit during the first half. the downtime. There's so much downtime.
There's a lot, especially after a team event. There's so much downtime. It can really get to your nerves.
But here we go. Again, a start value of 97.83. Falcons team event. Falcons with 4 seconds to spare, able to come through with the team event performance. What do you think?
They did great. There are a couple things that were a little wobbly that I'm sure they'll probably end up making up, but overall they did really great.
I like the energy level, I like the music selection. There was a lot of fun there, and even for the fans, a lot of toe-tapping action.
Yeah. We've been talking about since the seniors now, since their freshman year, we've been talking about doing a country-themed team event. So I'm glad they finally got to do it before they graduated.
Waiting for the scores to come in for the team event, which will ultimately determine how this meet panned out. What do you think overall from what you saw from these two schools?
I don't know. Anything can happen. You never really know what exactly the judges liked and what they didn't. So
what did you like today? Did anything stand out?
The overall energy of everything. That's my favorite part of acro, is how encouraging it is of everyone, whether they're on your team or not. You really are. Everyone's encouraging of each other.
Falcons going out here in this regular season finale, alumni day here inside the John Book Field, celebrating 9 seasons of Falcons, acrobatics, and tumbling. Is it anxious now if you're, like in this case, Concordia, knowing you're trying to play comeback? Are these anxious moments waiting on the scores, or, again, still not so much?
I mean, really, you can't really do anything about it now. It's more nerve-wracking before you go out to team event. After, it's up to the judges now, so you really are just waiting for them to announce the scores.
Well, recapping the first 5 events Falcons successful in compulsory, in acro. That was a win for Trine in the pyramid. Trine came out with the win in the toss. The Falcons scoring nearly 3 more points than the Thunder. But in tumbling, that was a squeaker, won by Trine. Again, they came into this event 1.425 points ahead of the Falcons for the meet lead after it was a near 4-point advantage at halftime for Trine University. So we await the scores. Nothing in yet. As the 3 judges discuss below. Again, Trine is next in action on April 1st. They head back home. They'll be in action against both Adrian and Augustana. Already, the Thunder have beaten Adrian. First time ever they beat Adrian. That was in and at Adrian College back on the 24th of February. Falcons are next in action for the NCATA Division III Championships, April 13th and 15th. So some rest between now and then as they, again, focus and try to tidy up some things in time to defend last year's NCATA Division III national title. So did the Falcons do enough to get over the hump and overtake the Thunder on this Sunday? Came down to the team event. You mentioned that country theme for the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
Final time, at least for the 3 seniors, to get the opportunity to compete here inside the John Book Fieldhouse. A lot of hard work all season long, a lot of early morning practices.
Yep.
All culminating here on this Sunday. As the Falcons looking for their second home victory after going 2-0 on the home mats a year ago. The drama continues to build as we await. Calculators out. See who did what. I don't know if there was any real surprises today when you look at how things kind of panned out, at least coming into this team event, because as you talked about, that toss event, sure enough, that's been a strength of the Falcons, and it was. Tumbling, a little bit of a struggle there, but they were right there with Trine and almost pulled that event out too.
Yeah.
So not a ton of surprises from what we thought coming in. It was about almost a 7-point differential when these teams met earlier in the month in Indiana. And we'll see. Trine won the team event by almost 6 full points back in on March 11th. So we'll see if we're in that same territory or not. A lot of discussion going on down at the judges' table. Probably checking, double checking, triple checking, making sure everything adds up. As we await the final. This is one of those where both teams kind of hanging around. As you mentioned, not much you can do at this point.
Oh.
Meet is over. And the final
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the final score.
team event scores are coming in, and we can tell you that the Falcons did not win the team event. Trine able to score 83.260. Falcons at 80.630. So Trine takes the meet by nearly, well, just over 4 full points, 238.685. Falcons at 234.630. So Trine takes it 238.685, 234.630. Thunder go to 3-2. Falcons fall to 2-5. Alyssa, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming up and hanging out.
Thank you for having me.
That's Alyssa Schnelly kind of to join us on Alumni Day. And the Falcons here on Alumni Day wrapping up this regular season. A tough one here against Trine, but again, great job by both teams competing here on this Sunday from the John Book Fieldhouse in Acrobatics and Tumbling. First time the Thunder are leaving the John Book Fieldhouse victorious in 3 all-time tries. Falcons now turn their attention to the NCATA Division III Championships. And the Thunder wrap up their regular season at home on April 1st against Adrian and August Stanton. Again, we invite you to check out CUWFalcons.com a little bit later on for a complete recap and all the final totals from this meet at CUWFalcons.com a little bit later on here on this Sunday. Thanks to our entire crew. Matt Meadows saying so long and good afternoon from the John Book Fieldhouse. You've been watching continuing coverage of Falcons Acrobatics and Tumbling on the Falcon Athletic Network.